Hey there, I'm Dayna Johnson, dental practice management expert, certified Dentrix trainer, and founder of Navoni, revolutionizing the dental industry through innovation and strategic leadership. It wasn't long ago that I lived in your shoes, navigating the daily challenges of managing a dental practice with the hopes and dreams of having a productive schedule, money in the bank, and getting home on time to my sweet daughter. After 25 years working in the dental practice and 17 years as a certified Dentrix trainer, I found my life's work, helping dental teams one-on-one, optimizing their systems and software. If you are looking to create the thriving dental practice you have always dreamed of and empower your high-performing dental team, you are in the right place. Let's get started.
Hey, welcome everyone to the High Performing Dental Team podcast. And we are kicking off fourth quarter. Oh my gosh, fourth quarter 2025. Wow, it's a big, deep breath. I can't believe it's already fourth quarter. And fourth quarter kicks off in October. And October is Dental Hygiene Month. And so I wanted to bring on my special guest, Claire Dickinson, who is always here to kick off our beginning of each quarter. So we can kind of highlight what each quarter of content is going to focus on. And so we're going to focus on hygiene and clinical processes. And Claire is the operations director for Puget Sound Perio up in the state of Washington. And so she lives in the hygiene world every single day. So welcome, Claire.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. You are one of my besties, not only in the dental world, but also in the personal world. Claire and I have known each other for over 20 years. And
yeah, we don't need to talk about how long, but it's been a while.
I was telling somebody the other day how long I've actually been in dentistry. And
yeah,
I can always gauge that by when my daughter was born.
Yeah,
because
me too.
Yeah. And so when my daughter was born was when I was in my first dental, it was kind of a dental job. I mean, I was installing computers in dentistry. So I can always tell how long I've been in dentistry by how old my daughter is. That's always easy. That's always
same
easy.
With my son, Tyler. It's the same thing.
I know. And now that she's 32, I know it's crazy, but we've been in dentistry a long time, been friends for a long time. And so we're going to dive into hygiene processes. And gosh, okay, so I'm going to start off by saying that dental hygienists go into this field with the anticipation and the excitement and the values of educating patients on oral health.
Yeah.
And I do believe that hygienists go into the field with that. They want to be good educators. They want to treat oral health disease. They want to teach prevention. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. To this day, I don't think I've met one hygienist, and I've met several that, you know, they're like the ultimate caregiver in the practice.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, they have that caregiver mentality. Yeah. They want to educate patients on the disease, their oral disease. They want to treat patients preventatively and get them up to a state of health. I think that's why people go into dental hygiene school.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I think so I used to, when I lived in the state of Washington, I was actually like a faculty. I was a contracted faculty member of the Shoreline Community College Hygiene School.
Okay.
And so every year, twice a year, I would go in and I would teach a class to the students, the hygiene students. I would teach to the first year students, and then I would teach to the second year students. And I also helped the faculty to go paperless in their hygiene school, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I really also felt that I got to introduce hygienists into the world of real life office hygiene, which is
Mhm.
way different than what they're taught in school.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so, when we see hygienists that are in school, they're given like 3 hours to do a prophy, and they have to go through all these, like each like faculty member has to sign off on everything, and there's all these really strict protocols when you are in dental hygiene school. And then
Right.
you get a hygienist that comes straight out of school into the dental practice, then there's this real world reality,
Yeah.
smacks them in the face.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Unless they
Yeah,
have,
like
formal experience as a dental assistant, and then there's that, relationship of understanding, then I see that the transition's a little bit easier for them. But
yeah.
yes.
Agree. If they've been an assistant, they can kind of see what the real world dental office is like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I remember when I used to teach the hygiene students at Shoreline and talk to them about, okay, this is what you're going to experience in the real world dental office. And they were like shocked. I
Yeah.
remember one of the hygienists, she was a second year hygiene student, and I was talking about treatment planning. And so it was this conversation about, treating the patient, like the prophy, the scaling and root planing, the actual treatment of the patient was like almost a smaller portion of the appointment than the other things that they'll have to be doing, like
Right.
health history review and treatment planning and perio charting.
Or
I think,
OHI, right?
and do, yeah,
OHI, yeah.
exactly. And I think a lot of them are surprised when they come out of dental hygiene school as to all these, what they feel more administrative tasks, and
Right.
so I want to kind of talk a little bit more about those processes that are outside of the actual treatment of the patient, because
Yeah.
that's where where I really see the breakdown in systems and where I see the breakdown in teamwork
Mm-hmm.
between the hygienist and the other team members.
Sure. Yeah.
What do you feel about that? Do you see that as well in your practice?
Yeah. Well, actually, not in our practices. It's culturally for us, our hygienists, they understand how valuable their role is, and they see themselves as a mini extension of all of their doctors. And so
Mm-hmm.
it is they take great pride in saying, no, this is my responsibility to, co-diagnose with you, to treatment plan with you. We foster and encourage them to think like a doctor. So then there's that dialogue. It's not a doctor just telling them what to do or telling them, taking that agency and that education away from them, because their education that they have is very unique, and they are the right hand of the doctor. Right. And so we don't see too much of breakdown in our office as far as like the push and pull that sometimes I see between assistants to hygienists or front office to hygienists or hygienists to the whole office, right? Which, that's the things that we don't like to talk about, but let's be real. It does happen.
I see it a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
I see just this, almost this, like just the tension. I don't know. So you don't see a lot of that in your practice because you foster that culture in your practice.
Yeah.
So
it's the hygiene meetings that we have and the conversations that we have is like, our doctors are specialists. So there is continued education beyond dental school. So we have a ton of technical experts in our practice, right? But our doctors, they don't take the position that, they know and they are the end all be all, right? And they will have conversation and dialogue with their hygienists. Like, what do you see? What do you think? So it's a collaborative type of relationship that I think makes the hygienist like really feel and understand the value that they have in the office. And they're wanting and willing to be part of the process of the patient's overall care. And I think that that's really where the focus needs to be. Is it's not about, hey, this is my lane and this is all I do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but as a hygienist, if you want to just, do prophies all day, you have so much more to offer than that, right?
Mhm.
It's not about the cleaning. It's about the education. It's about the OHI. It's about getting the patient, like they have such a unique relationship with the hygienist that they may not have with the doctor, or they may not have with the assistant. And you get an hour of dedicated time with them, let's say. Capitalize on how important and powerful your role is and what it can mean for your patients. Because, some of the things that you talked about, Dayna, was like hygienists, that push and pull that we see, right? What is it? What's behind it? Where does it come from? And I think if there's an understanding about how much impact that you have in this role, and that you truly can make a difference in the patient's life as a caregiver, by understanding those aspects of it, that is way more valuable than being this is going to be terrible to say, but a prophy queen, right? It's way more valuable.
I agree.
And if you have that passion and desire, it's awesome. It's great. Hygiene's great for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like in order for the hygienist, the educator in the practice to have that kind of conversation with the patient and be that collaborative diagnostician in the practice, you have to have the right tools at your fingertips. And so that goes with reviewing the health history, having accurate, up-to-date perio charting, having good imaging, and discussing treatment options with the patient. So those four things is something that happens in the appointment that is outside of doing the prophy, of doing the scaling and replaning, So I think it's really important that our hygienists make time to do those things, because you can't be a good hygienist, a good educator, a good co-diagnoser unless you have the diagnostic tools at your fingertips.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure that most offices, most doctor owners, if they felt and saw the value of all that, if you needed to reschedule, like let's say the patient came in and they were scheduled as an adult prophy, but after your initial review of the mouth and all the stuff that you need to gather to see what their current status is, you're like, we got to stop. There's something else that's happening here, Dayna. We need to discuss. That is so much more valuable. And then we reschedule to the appropriate type of treatment that they need. Doctors aren't going to tell you no, and they're not going to say, well, why didn't you do the prophy? They're going to say, thank you so much for being an extension of me and taking care of our patients. And if you're in offices that all they care about is turning over patients, that may not be the right office for you, right? So
I agree.
We have to take that time.
And, we all know with the salaries and the wages that we're seeing, especially in the state of Washington.
Yeah.
Also, in all across the country, hygiene wages are up significantly, and which I think is great. I think hygienists deserve to make the wage that they deserve. And there has to be an agreement with the practice as to, okay, you deserve this wage. And in order for you to be paid this, we need something in return.
Yeah.
And that something in return is diagnostics, education, treatment planning, serving the patient in the most optimal way. And, so a situation that I have up in the state of Washington is I have a dental practice where the doctor, is asking me, I have a dental hygienist that wants $100, $110 an hour. And I said, I really don't care how much you pay her, but this is the value in return that you will get from her if you pay her this.
Right.
And, so she produces $2,600 to $3,000 a day.
That's beautiful. That's great.
Right? Because she's earning that wage. And if a hygienist is asking for $60, $70, $80, $110 an hour wage, they have to earn that wage in the value that they're bringing to the office. And that comes from treatment planning, education, diagnosing, and all of those things.
Right. It is. It's, you know, a hygienist is a producer, just like a doctor is a
Yes.
producer. And in order to, like, you know, on the business side of dentistry, for, you know, everything to work, let's just say, you know, we look at producers in a different way than we look at, let's say, business team members or an assistant, right?
Mhm.
They are support staff. You know, I don't want to minimize anybody's position by saying support staff, but they're support staff to producers. But
Mhm.
producers' role is that the intent is that they need to produce a certain amount, okay? And that's how they get compensated as well. That's how the doctors get compensated. That's how the hygienists get compensated. And I'm talking about like associate and hygienist, not maybe not doctor owner. It's a little bit different. Um, so, you know, as a caregiver, that needs to be the last thing on your mind. I want them thinking about like, oh gosh, I have to like make my wage. But you also have to understand the business side of dentistry is one where, you know, if our reimbursement with insurance of a prophy's, you know, $80
Yeah.
and you're doing a prophy in an hour and your hourly is 110,
Yeah.
that is not your fault. However, at some point, the practice will no longer be able to afford that. So,
Right.
you know, putting value into it, but not worrying hour by hour what's happening. Like we were talking about, like, is it more valuable to do the prophy or is it more valuable to stop and say, hey, let me educate, let me spend this time with you and then reappoint? I think
Mhm.
it's more valuable to take a loss in that hour to reappoint, because what will happen is subsequently your patients will get healthier and you have the opportunity to potentially produce more if that's what you're really concerned about, because the treatment will change. And that's not ever my goal is, you know, how can we produce more, but it's more about how can we give the patient care? Because I feel like if we are very, very patient centric about doing the right thing and we are caregivers, that is our role. If we do that, all the other stuff will come. And then
I
these
agree.
conversations about wages and stuff.
Did you know that you could increase your team's productivity by up to 200% if you had a formal team training program in place? And businesses that do have a formal team training program in place also enjoy up to a 24% increase in profit margin. If you want to learn how and book a call with me, click on the show notes and book a free discovery call with me, and we will talk all about it.
It's not going to happen because the value is there, but it takes everybody on the team with their unique education and skill set to participate in the process. Hygienists, you are well educated. You have a unique skill set. You have that connection between the doctor and the patient that no one else has. You can dive deep in, you know, the connection between oral health and overall physical health. Like, capitalize that. And yeah, you have to help with treatment planning and co-diagnosis. It's part of it that is needed.
Agree. And you know, when we talk about getting the patient healthier, because that's what we do
Yeah.
in as oral health physicians, that's what we are. We're oral health physicians. We want the patient to be healthier. And so, you know, part of that is looking at the overall health of the patient, which is when the patient sits down in the hygiene chair, it's not about asking the patient, has anything changed in your health since your last visit? And then they document no changes on the health
Yeah.
history. That's
Yeah.
not what a health history review is. You know,
Exactly.
a health history review is looking at what medications is the patient taking, what medical conditions does this patient have that could be affecting their oral health, or if
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing changes in their oral health, you know, how can we step up our treatment and diagnosis of the patient in order to help treat them systemically. And
Exactly.
I think that that's another place where our hygienists either, you know, put on the back burner that health history review because they say they don't have time, or they just don't see the value in it, you know.
Right.
So your hygienist in your practice, you know, like, how do you feel like they really take that health history review seriously?
You
And
know,
how
at
do they?
times, like, I hesitate to admit this, but at times I think that they take it more seriously than some of our surgeons do. Like, they deep dive into it And I've, had an experience where I've had one of our hygienists say, hey, I think we have a bigger problem here. And they, we'd had, so, we take CBCTs pretty much on all of our patients because of the type of work that we do. And I've had hygienists that do a lot of the new patient intakes, and they've noticed that there's been blockage and like carotid arteries, like, whoa, pump the brakes. We got a bigger problem here, right? Yeah. And so they take it very, very seriously. They understand it. Hygienists that are more of a check the box, like we're just checking boxes just to get stuff done, typically don't do well with us because there is such a huge emphasis on we all have a role as caregivers within the practice. This is our specific role. And the 5 that we have very, very much are bought into that. It's a very much a part of who they are, is that they, they won't just do what's on their schedule. They're like, no, this is what needs to happen for the patient. And they're very active and looking at their schedule ahead of time and making sure things are treatment planned correctly, make sure that they're communicating with the patient. From doctor to patient, when the doctor comes into the office, they are sharing what the roadmap is with the patient. This is what we did with the patient today. These are my findings. And so the doctor can basically come in and just, give their blessing and say, yes, absolutely. Or, and the patient feels well taken care of because they have their hygienist and then they have their doctor and they're cohesive and aligned. And it's a beautiful thing when you see that. And that is why hygienists are needed. And that's why you get compensated the way that you do.
Yeah. Agree. So do you feel that the culture that you have built in your practice and the mindset that your hygienists have has come a lot from the leadership from the doctors?
Yeah, for sure. And I would say,
talk about that for a second.
I will say one of the things I'm really proud of here at Puget-Sound Perio, and, I'm going to give Dr. King a little bit of a plug here, is he's very much like I am, very patient-centric. It's no secret we're a big group, and I'm sure as many people can understand, they can figure it out, like we're doing okay, right? However, we also really, really prioritize the idea that we're patient and people-centric. So whatever it takes to make that relationship with the patient where there's trust, high transparency, communication, everyone feels like anyone on the team can either get you to the person who has the answer or you have a caregiver that's there for you. We don't have people just filling seats. Everybody's highly involved. And that even goes back to our relationship with our referring practices. And it comes from Dr. King. Like he's always been like that. He's always been like, hey, what's the right thing? And he's the first person, like if there's something happens, okay, this happened, I'm going to make it right. And he's not shy about it. And so it comes from the top, right? And that's why so many of us are attached to him in this organization, is because we feel the same. So I do understand that there's practices out there that it's really just about generating bodies and turnover. Over time, we'll see if those groups last because of it. Who knows, right? But I do think that we need to focus on what the right thing is, and it's getting back to being, focused on the right thing. The money will come, the volume will come.
And I always say that too. So for the doctors and hygienists that are listening, is really cultivating that relationship between the doctor and the hygienist, and the doctor having that, I guess, that trust and allowing your hygienist to be that co-anchor. I mean, hygienists typically can't diagnose, but they can, they can.
They know, and they can co-diagnose.
So it's the doctors having that trust with their hygienist, and the hygienist feeling that trust with their doctor.
Exactly.
And is really where you will get that flow, that where you feel like you're in the zone, with your producers in the practice, is that there's this trust built. And the only way we're really going to be able to build trust with our hygienists is they having the motivation and the skill and the and that, taking the time to go over the diagnostic material, and having the right diagnostics is the only way that you're able to treatment plan for this patient, and reviewing that health history and having the perio charting at your fingertips and having the right imaging, because then you can put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
When the hygienist does that regularly and is able to then, talk to the patient about their treatment needs and their overall health, and then the doctor coming in and the hygienist kind of handing off, these are my findings, and then the doctor confirming it, and then there's building that trust. The patient is going to feel that,
For sure.
and then the treatment comes, like you said. The money will follow if we just do these things that we should be doing, from the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think what we can kind of end with is giving our hygienists that, I think it's all about how can they create a better workflow as far as, okay, these are the things that I have to do in my appointment at every visit. And how am I going to be able to then, time management wise, be able to stay on time and get what I need to get done, and be able to bring, the value to my practice to justify the wage that I'm asking for. And it all comes down to, the trust with the doctor, being able to treatment plan the right procedures and not worrying so much about how much the treatment costs, but offering the patient and talking to the patient about optimum care,
Right. Yeah.
because the money will come if the patient trusts you and trusts what you're talking about, and you have this relationship with your patient and your doctor. I mean, that everything kind of gels together.
It does. Yeah. And patients, we all know that there's patients who are massively motivated by money and, what it's going to be, or they just have no value in dentistry. We see it all the time, and that's okay. Yeah. So understanding and knowing who you're speaking to in that moment and where to put your efforts is important. However, it is not our choice to make a decision for the patient as far as what the cost is and what their current status is. Their status is their status, but your job as a clinical provider is you need to observe, and then you need to diagnose, and then you need to treat. What the patient does with it and what they decide to do, that's them. And we can't throw our filters in there and say, hey, this is too much money. It could be, but it could be not. And so if you're building that value for them about, what is this going to do for you, Dayna? If it's what you need to have done, that is more important than the cost part. Okay. Yeah. And so it's about building that value of the treatment and why, and investing that time with them. If they feel like you genuinely care and are connected to them, it's much easier. It's when they feel like you're just trying to sell them something,
right?
You're going to have some misses, and it's going to feel cringy. It just will.
Yeah. Agree. Yeah. Well, this is really good conversation. I really feel like our hygienists are, they are such a big part of our team, and they are the educators, and they're the relationship builders, and they build trust, and I really want it to be a really good relationship in the practice. And I think, like you said, it kind of comes down from the doctor, really having that culture in the practice, and developing that culture of trust and all of that. But then it comes down to the hygienist of being able to fulfill that entire hygiene visit with, what do I need to get done during this whole hygiene visit? And I think we can talk about systems later. Like, I'm going to do a lot more podcasts over the next few months about how can we do a better health history review? How can we make sure that we get the perio chart done, every year? How can we have the right diagnostic? I'm going to do a lot more podcasts about that. But I think right now we can really start to look at, okay, as a hygienist, as a producer in the office, how can I build this trust with my team and my doctor and my patients so that we are giving the patient better care?
I would encourage hygienists to think of their mini business owners. Their department, they have a lot of influence on what happens in their department.
Yes.
You know, think of it as, okay, I own this. My time, what happens with the time that I'm here? I have, massive, influence, or, I can predict the outcome to some degree and take ownership for it.
Yeah.
You have a lot of opportunity that way. And the doctor owners that see that, the ones that truly value you truly value them, the relationship will be very positive, not only in giving you autonomy and agency as a hygienist, but also, in the financial rewards of it as well. And great patient relationships. Like, I love it when I hear patients say, no, I only want this hygienist. It's because that's there.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
Agree.
So
I agree with you 100%. I agree with thank you so much for all your great insights. And I love it when you're able to bring in this value from your practice, because you do have a really great culture in your practices, and you've built that really deep relationship and trust with your team. So
we have some amazing hygienists, and I will never let them leave. So yeah, I'll threaten them if they do.
That's a good thing. Yeah. That's a good thing. I know. And there has to be this, this agreement between the practice and the hygienist. And like you said, they're kind of their own business owner, and they can build this hygiene department inside of a practice, and they can bring so much value. And I love seeing that happen in practices. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, I do too. It's great.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate all of your insights. All right, everyone. So thank you for spending a little bit of your day with us. And so, like I said, over the next couple of months, you will hear a few more, system and process podcasts. Today, we talked a little at the 37,000 foot view. So listen to that. If you need help with your hygiene team, I know Claire would love to work with you one-on-one. And if you need information, if you need systems and processes, if you need some training, I could certainly help you with that. So both of our contact information will be in the show notes for today. And I look forward to watching your journey of becoming a high-performing dental team.